It started on a muggy Saturday morning when the sound of metal against metal startled me awake. At first, I thought it was just the mailman fumbling with the community mailbox outside. But when I heard the jingle of keys and the distinct click-click of my own front doorknob turning, I sat up instantly. My dog, Max, a 90-pound German Shepherd with a bark that could rattle windows, leapt off the bed before I could even speak. Through the frosted glass window, I saw the unmistakable silhouette of Karen, our HOA president and self-proclaimed guardian of the neighborhood's standards. She was trying to unlock my front door. My front door. I didn't know whether to laugh or call the police. Karen, what are you doing? I yelled, rushing toward the entryway. She jumped, startled, and fumbled the keys. Oh. I was just checking for compliance, she stammered. We received reports that you installed an unauthorized smart lock. And I have a master HOA key. I stared at her, incredulous. You're trespassing. She huffed, straightening her floral blouse. As HOA president, I'm entitled to perform inspections. Especially when a homeowner fails to respond to notices. I hadn't received any notice. That's illegal, Karen, I said, unlocking the deadbolt from my side. You can't just barge into someone's home. But before I could open the door fully, Max shoved past me and planted himself in the doorway. Teeth bared, tail stiff as a board. Karen's eyes went wide as she stumbled backward onto the porch. Call off your dog. She screeched, clutching her pearls like she was in some daytime soap. Maybe step off my property first, I said, crossing my arms. Max didn't move. His low growl rumbled through the air like distant thunder. Karen stumbled over her own words, muttering something about safety, violations, and neighborhood security. She shuffled away, mumbling that this wasn't over. I watched her retreat down the walkway, shaking my head. Max turned to me, his ears perked as if asking, did I do good? Yeah, buddy, I said, scratching his head. You did real good. But something about the look in Karen's eyes as she left told me this wasn't the end. HOA Karen wasn't the kind to let things go. She'd be back, and next time, I had a feeling she'd bring more than a key. For the moment, though, I was just grateful for one thing. That Max was home to give her the shock of her life before she could cross my threshold. By Monday morning, the entire neighborhood was buzzing. Someone had posted on our HOA's online forum about an aggressive dog endangering residents. Of course. The post came from none other than Karen L., president. The comments section was a battlefield, half the neighbors defending Max as a sweet, loyal protector, and the other half echoing Karen's panic about vicious breeds. At exactly 6 p.m., I got an email, mandatory emergency. HOA meeting, dog incident at lot 23. My lot. Great. When I arrived at the community center, the room was packed. Karen sat at the head of the table, her posture rigid. A manila folder in front of her like it contained classified documents. I spotted a few neighbors, Mrs. Delgado from next door, old Mr. Peters with his ever-present binoculars, and a few people I barely knew but who seemed to enjoy the drama. Let's begin, Karen said, tapping her pen on the table. It has come to my attention that one of our residents has allowed an unregistered, aggressive animal to roam freely on community property. I raised my hand immediately. You mean my dog, who was inside my house protecting me when you tried to break in? Gasps rippled through the crowd. Karen's lips thinned. I was performing a lawful inspection. Lawful, I said, standing. You tried to unlock my front door without my permission. That's breaking and entering. Her face flushed crimson. As HOA president, you're not law enforcement. Karen, you have zero authority to enter a private residence. Mrs. Delgado chimed in from the back. She tried that with me last year. Said she was checking for gutter compliance. The murmurs grew louder. Karen slammed her pen down. This meeting is not about me, it's about that dangerous animal. Max wasn't dangerous. He was a trained service dog for my anxiety disorder, calm, obedient, and gentle unless provoked. I produced his registration papers and training certificate, setting them on the table for everyone to see. The room went quiet. Finally, Mr. Peters leaned forward and said, "Seems to me the only dangerous thing here is someone trying to play sheriff." Karen's composure cracked, her hands trembling. She adjourned the meeting abruptly, muttering something about further action. I left feeling victorious but uneasy. Because when HOA Karen felt humiliated, she didn't retreat, she plotted. And from the glare she gave me as I walked out, I knew the next round was coming. A few days later, strange things started happening. First, I got 3 anonymous complaints, citing me for unsightly weeds in my front yard, despite my lawn being picture perfect. Then, a letter arrived claiming I owed $200 in violation fees for improper fence height. I didn't even have a fence. It didn't take Sherlock Holmes to figure out who was behind it. Karen was waging a silent war. I decided to install a security camera facing the front porch, just in case she tried anything else. That turned out to be the smartest move I'd ever made. At 11:42 p.m. that Friday, my phone buzzed with a motion alert. I opened the live feed, and there she was. Karen, flashlight in hand, crouched by my mailbox like some deranged raccoon. She pulled out a notepad and started taking photos of my house, muttering to herself. I hit record and watched in disbelief as she tried my doorknob again. This time, she didn't have keys, but she did have a tiny screwdriver. "Unbelievable," I whispered. Max lifted his head from his bed, growling softly. I opened the door just as she jiggled the handle. "Looking for round 2, Karen." She jumped back, nearly dropping her flashlight. You can't just sneak up on people like that." "I live here," I snapped. "What are you doing on my property in the middle of the night?" Karen fumbled for an excuse. "Routine safety inspection. There have been reports of suspicious activity." "Yeah, I said, stepping forward. Max barked once, deep, powerful, echoing off the porch walls. Karen screamed and stumbled backward into the azalea bush, her flashlight flying into the yard. She scrambled up, face pale as chalk. "This is harassment. I'm calling the police." "Please do," I said, pulling out my phone. "We'll compare footage." She froze, realizing what that meant. Then she ran, literally ran, down the sidewalk, nearly tripping over her heels. Max wagged his tail, pleased with himself. That night, I uploaded the footage to the HOA forum under the caption, "Concerned HOA president caught trespassing at midnight." By morning, the post had gone viral across the neighborhood. Karen's empire was crumbling, and she hadn't even seen the worst of it yet. Saturday morning arrived bright and peaceful, or so I thought. I was sipping my coffee when I heard another motion alert. My stomach clenched. Could she really be back again? I opened the feed and nearly spat out my drink. There she was, Karen, armed with a clipboard and wearing gardening gloves like she was going into battle. She marched up my driveway, muttering to herself. "Today's the day," I said under my breath. Max's ears perked up as I opened the blinds. She reached for the doorknob again. Only this time, I had added a new feature to my smart lock, a harmless static deterrent meant to prevent tampering. It delivered a mild electric zap if someone tried to pick or force the lock. The second her gloved hand twisted the handle, zap. Karen yelped and stumbled back, shaking her hand wildly. "Ow. What was that?" From inside, I couldn't help it. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my mug. Max barked joyfully beside me, tail wagging like he understood the punchline. Karen stomped off the porch, shouting, "I'm filing a lawsuit. This is assault. On my own property. Good luck with that." I called through the window. By noon, half the neighborhood had gathered outside, whispering and pointing. Someone had already posted a slow-motion replay from their doorbell cam. Captioned, "HOA Karen meets her match." Even the usually grumpy Mr. Peters was chuckling as he walked by. "Guess karma's electric these days," he said with a grin. Later that evening, I received an official email from the HOA board, without Karen's name on it. She'd been suspended pending investigation for abuse of authority and harassment. Max sat at my feet, head resting on my lap, blissfully unaware that he was now a local hero. I scratched behind his ears. "You know, buddy," I said softly, "we couldn't have scripted it better." Somewhere out there, Karen was nursing her pride, and maybe still feeling a tingle in her fingertips. And me? I finally had peace, knowing that my door, my home, and my dog had given HOA Karen exactly what she deserved, the shock of her life.